So we're really looking for that low-hanging fruit. What can we automate? Where can we really use AI to help achieve the outcomes that really don't require a lot of decision making, don't require someone to make a decision about what's the right thing to say or the right thing to do, but simply moving things from one thing to the next. That's an area where I think AI can really empower a lot of agencies. I've been trying to champion that every agency, regardless of their tech awareness or their tech prowess, every agency can do things that can make small changes that can lead to big impacts.
Welcome to another episode of the Home Health 360 podcast, where we speak to home-based care professionals from around the globe. I'm your host, Erin Valier, and today I am joined by someone I respect and admire in the industry, and that's Jeff Salter. Jeff is the founder and CEO of Caring Senior Service. And he had the audacity to start this company when he was just 20 years old and has grown it to what it is today. And that's over 50 locations spanning across 20 states. That is impressive, Jeff. He is also heavily involved in a few associations: the National Association for Home Care and Hospice, the Private Duty Home Care Association of America, and to scratch his itch for his passion for technology, he's involved in the Home Care Technology Advisory Council. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate the chance to be on with you. And just to clarify, we're only in 18 states, so not 20, but it's been a long journey.
Okay. Well, maybe 20 states by the end of the year, right? Well, I'm so excited to have you on the show today to talk about technology and specifically artificial intelligence and how it's being applied in the home care space. I think it's coming and we all got to be prepared for how to use it. So I think you are the right man to talk about it.
Obviously, it's a topic on everyone's mind. There's lots of discussion. I'm at a consumer experience conference, and it's interesting that it's a lot of CEOs, CTOs, and CMOs, chief marketing officers. So they're kind of all over the place with this technology, and I thought that group would have a lot more influence and be up to speed on it, but I'm finding that people just aren't as up to speed as you might think. So it's a good topic to keep talking about.
Interesting. Yeah, let's bring some awareness to this topic. So as CEO of one of the leading healthcare home care providers in the U.S. and a huge technology advocate, what role do you see AI playing in the future of the industry? I'm curious, what areas are ripe for disruption and how can we prepare for all that?
They're calling it the fifth industrial revolution. Much like automation came to the automobile and allowed it to get created on top of steam engines. And then we went to cars. Then we had the advent of more microcomputers, and then the internet was considered part of the fourth step of the industrial revolution. I think that what we're going to be seeing is continued challenges with companies trying to understand where it fits in. And for me, I think that there's a lot of disruption available primarily in the office setting, in this early wave, if you will. Think about, how can I make someone's job? It's a tedious job already. How can I make it a little easier? How can I make their role and give them time back? And that's what we're really focusing on. How do I give time back to the people I have? I'm not trying to eliminate anyone, maybe trying to keep from expanding and adding staff unnecessarily. So we're really looking for that low-hanging fruit. What can we automate? Where can we really use AI to help achieve the outcomes that really don't require a lot of decision making, don't require someone to make a decision about what's the right thing to say or the right thing to do, but simply moving things from one thing to the next. That's an area where I think AI can really empower a lot of agencies.
Well, that's exciting. And I think that'll make a lot of people happy so they can actually use their brain for more important tasks instead of clicking buttons.
It may not seem exciting. There's a few of us out there that get all giddy about this kind of stuff and excited about it. I've been trying to champion that every agency, regardless of their tech awareness or their tech prowess, every agency can do things that can make small changes that can lead to big impacts.
I think we're going to talk about some of those small changes, or I hope so, in this conversation. I know that you're involved in a couple of AI projects now. So what can you tell me at high level? What are you doing?
Two things we're focused on heavily, and both are using AI, but the first was trying to understand how we could impact our location's growth. And growth comes, as we all know, from admissions. Admissions start almost always with a phone call. Even if it's a form submission from the internet that leads to us picking the phone up and calling someone, or our advertising leads to a caller calling us. Either our marketing efforts, we're out there talking to referral sources, all of that leads to a phone call. As I expanded more and more locations, I long suspected that it's a challenge for the average worker in a home care office to stop what they're doing and focus on that caller to give them all the information they need to make that decision, because consumers just don't know what's going on. So we focused on a calling software that's helping us to better understand that. So that was one area. The second area of focus that we're doing is really trying to automate the scheduling process, which there's some fantastic schedules out there. And when you've got one, they're worth their weight in gold. They're not as common as we all like. And we need to look at how can we use technology to help in the scheduling. And we're finding that there's not just scheduling, but there's a lot of other activities that rely on human decision making that we can actually help augment through some AI technology.
Interesting. So you've got a calling tool or a call logging tool and a sort of a personal assistant scheduler. Let's talk a little bit more about that. I think your calling tool is Inky Scribe.
Yeah, we call it Inky Scribe. What we're doing is we're able to capture the incoming phone calls. And when those calls are happening, we're recording the call, which is pretty common. Many people might be recording calls and they have that recording says for quality and training purposes. But we found that no one's actually doing anything with those calls. They might be getting recorded and putting into a bucket somewhere, but no one's actually processing them unless you're a big call center or you've got a real big agency that has a massive amount of calls. You can leverage the use of other technologies. We found that we just weren't doing enough with it. And those inquiry calls are what we really wanted to hear more of and understand how many times does someone call us in that often desperate situation where it's a son or a daughter. I don't know what to do with mom or dad and I need more information. And we found that when we did get a chance to listen to calls prior to us implementing this technology, it was an extremely laborious process. You had to find the right call to listen to. You then had to listen to the call and try and kind of grade it. Then you had to schedule time to meet with someone to talk about what they did well, what they can improve on. And the reality is that home care agencies of most average sizes just don't get that many volume of calls. So you don't get the chance to hear a lot of calls. So our technology is allowing us to listen and hear every call, but then process the call using AI. We transcribe it, and then we pull all the data from the call. So who the caller was, what they were calling about, what their challenges were, and then we're able to give a report back to the end user within minutes of the call happening. They get a full report said, here's what you did well in the call. Here's things you maybe missed and could improve on for your next call. It's almost gamified so that they say, okay, I got a score. I want to get a better score on the next one. And I want to make sure I get all the data. What's cool about it is we can give detailed hints on what they could have done better and ways they could rephrase questions or questions they could have inserted at the right time where they would have got more information. Because the reality is callers want to hear that they've called the place that's going to take care of them properly. And there's just certain things that need to be said during that call to have that caller feel like, okay, I don't need to call someone else. I've called where I need to, and these folks can help me. Because the reality is, every agency that's doing what we do, caring senior service, we're very proud of the services that we do, but we also know that there are lots of good companies out there. And the fact is that we need every company to service these folks because there's so many people that need help. We can't all service all of them. Not any one company can help all of the clients. So we just want everyone to be better. We want to stop the shop for everybody. In reality, we know people will call us first and we want them to call us last. And we want to actually empower others. They can have the same kind of outcome with our new technology.
That is exciting to me. You've got basically a manager helping you become a better intake coordinator or scheduler, whoever picks up the phone. You get better at your job and you don't have somebody micromanaging you. It's smart. It's telling you exactly what you need. And then you get all the information. You're making sure as a company that you've standardized what information that you want to get. And so you're capturing it and you set this level of excellence across the organization where you can enforce it and it doesn't feel creepy. It's very cool.
It's not Big Brotherish. It's definitely coming from a system. It's scoring me. So that gamification, we all like that. We like to do better the next time. And it's unbiased also. There's no bias to it in that sense. And your boss, sometimes you may not have a great relationship with your boss and it's like, oh, here's Larry telling me how I didn't do good this time again. So it takes away all of that.
I imagine the benefits of this are just vast. You probably have a higher percentage of intakes now that your calls are better. Tell me a little bit about the benefits in terms of efficiency, cost savings, increased census.
I think the most exciting part of this is that as a leader in the leadership suite, a CEO, COO, even an owner, what we don't know right now is you just don't know how many people are calling you and asking about your services. You only get feedback on the ones that were clearly engaged on their side and asking questions enough to where the person receiving the call thought it was an intake call. Because what if someone just calls it, hey, how much are your services? And we give them a price. They say, okay, thanks. And they hang up. That was actually an inquiry call. It was someone that because of your efforts, the money that you were spending, they called your company. They didn't just randomly pick your number out of the air. They called from somewhere. They got your number on the internet. They got a referral from a source. They found your brochure, business card, whatever it was. Today, those calls do not get recorded. The people answering the phone just don't think that was a really an inquiry call. And that's okay. That's just education. But even when we were giving education to record every single call, we found that they just didn't capture enough of them. Today, we now have insights into knowing exactly how many people call our service every single day and asking a question about service because we log it. The AI picks up on that simple short call and we can see how many calls. So that's gold to know how many times is my phone ringing for someone. And we discovered that it's ringing a lot more than we thought. I respect that some agencies following the pandemic are challenged with caregiver acquisition and they maybe don't need more clients. That's just not us. We need more clients. We want more clients. We want to serve more people. I want to know how many people are calling. And so that's an insight that I think is a byproduct of what we were trying to achieve. And it's a really interesting one from being a stat nerd that I am. I kind of want to know that number. Then I can impact how many, because if you think your close rate, client call to admission is 20% or 50%, let's say you think you're doing really good 50%. Well, it's a false number if you're not recording every call that actually came in. So your close rate really isn't 50%. It could be much lower. And that's not good or bad. I don't necessarily subscribe to industry standards and what it should be. I only care about what each agency is able to achieve. And this data helps us understand that a lot more.
What gets measured gets managed.
Absolutely.
And the other one, let's switch gears. The other tool, a scheduling assistant, caregiver, is that correct?
Yeah.
And this is an AI assistant for recipients. These are elderly people. I'm curious, how does it work to enhance the care experiences and what challenges did you face when developing a user-friendly AI for seniors? That sounds daunting.
Yeah, it's really think of it as a AI tool for families, and the senior is in the center of that care. We often define it as a care circle, right? It's the senior and then all of the people that are around that. It could be family members. When a senior is deciding to live at home and remain there, they need a whole suite of help. They need help with family. They need help from the lawn maintenance, cleaning services. They might need food service. They might need any other number of things. They might call an agency like ours and need help during the times when family can't be there. So this AI assistant is designed to put the senior in the care circle, and then all of the people that are managing that care circle can participate in a very unique way. Today, the easiest example is let me put a picture out there where it's a senior and they've got 3 children. Those 3 children are all in different areas. Maybe one lives in town, but the other ones live somewhere else. The current way that they all coordinate things is they usually have chat threads, right? We got a messages or we got WhatsApp and we're all chatting back and forth about what's going on. And the conversation gets really messy real quickly. Well, Carrie steps in the middle and acts as an assistant to keep the conversation going. It allows the senior to ask and request for assistance and help. And then it goes out and kind of polls the different family members if they can help. Where it gets really exciting is that agencies will be able to also be part of that care circle. So let's say your mom needs to ride to the doctor's office on Tuesday. Well, the AI can ask the 3 children, is anyone available to help with this visit? And if all of them are unavailable, it can then go out to the third party service and ask if they're available to take that person to the doctor's appointment. You can imagine A doctor's appointment's not really where it gets really cool because it has layers of coolness to it. And what it also does is it integrates. So if I'm the manager of a care service now and I get that request directly from the care recipient and says, I need a ride to the doctor's office. Well, I can just ask the AI, say, who do I have available that can make that appointment? And the AI has full integration with each of my caregivers and my scheduling system. So not only is it overlaying what's in my scheduling system, but because all the caregivers also create their own kind of circles, if you will, their information, whatever they've told Carrie, they might have on Tuesday, Sally has a appointment to take her son to the doctor. And Jane has the day off because she's scheduled to go on vacation. Neither of those people might have told the agency that they're working for that that was their schedule, but they would know that. And so they might have told Carrie that that's what their schedule is. And imagine if a caregiver is also working for multiple agencies. I, as an agency owner, only know their schedule for me. I don't know their schedule for someone else. Well, Carrie goes out and asks, I say, well, Carrie, can you check my caregiver pool and see who's available? Well, Carrie goes out having the knowledge of what's available, who's available, comes back to me a list of 6 people. And then I can just say, oh, Carrie, can you contact those 6 people for me and see if one of them will take the shift? And Carrie does all of the legwork. Traditionally today, many of us use systems that will do some algorithmic reporting back on who might be available. But imagine now that all that information that's not recorded in our database is also potentially accessible to the AI, and it can actually help find and choose people to provide service. So it goes through 10 people, it asks them if they're available in a very natural language like discussion. That's what's really cool about it. And the person can ask more information. They can interact with the AI in ways that we just haven't been able to see before. So that person, whoever responds, I say, yes, I'll take the shift. And then I'm able to say, okay, we'll schedule that caregiver to take care of it. And then Carrie informs everyone else in the loop who's going to be there. And anyone that's in the care circle can simply ask a question and say, if Bob lives out in Nevada caring for moms in San Antonio, Texas, Bob just says, hey, did mom get scheduled for that ride on Tuesday? And Carrie says, yes, we've arranged a caregiver. She'll be taken care of on Tuesday. So it really helps fill in all of the gaps from the communication side of things. And it does all the footwork. You can imagine now a scheduler's job, not completely eliminated, but it becomes much more easier. They can handle a larger caseload by having an assistant in place because someone still has to be there to kind of help coordinate these things. But you now can manage a much bigger caseload with fewer people potentially.
Fewer phone calls, fewer emails, all of it. Super complex and very exciting. It's going to change some lives for sure.
Even though a lot of our systems can communicate mass texting, even to the right people, you can mass text. But then if you've got 6 people that are communicating back, now you've got to manage all 6 of those. Now imagine the AI is able to do all of that for you. That's where it gets really kind of exciting and useful.
I love it. I love it. So that's sort of a scary picture for the more simple, smaller agencies, I bet, because they don't really have the resources to invest in advanced AI. So what are some low cost, easy to adopt solutions that you would recommend? I know that's also a passion of yours, like AI for everyone.
I think to be competitive, I've been trying to teach my team members is when it comes to technology and AI, I've told them to just play, have fun with it, test it out, put it to its limits, spend an hour, even of your workday, get in with ChatGPT and have a conversation with it. Because while that's only one technology, a leading technology a lot of people are familiar with, there's a lot of other ones that are out there. And ask people, start playing with it because here at the conference I'm at right now, they asked a question. How many people have taken a spreadsheet data and fed that into a chat conversation to say, analyze this data and tell me what it says? And it's amazing the results that happen when you do that. But because people didn't even think, oh, I didn't think I could do that, that comes with play. So if you play a little bit, then you can learn a little bit more. And then it's just being curious because there's things like there's an automation company called make.com. And Make allows you to connect disparate systems together in really unique ways. I've been using that for the last 6 years to try and connect things together. It can feel a little bit techy when you start using it at first. But if you would just watch a few YouTube videos and find some low hanging fruit, some easy things to automate, it's amazing what you can build on your own. It's kind of satisfying when you go, wow, I just created this automation that does something that took me 5 minutes to do. Even if you save 5 minutes every day for 5 minutes, I was doing that task because now I've automated it. Multiply that by three or four of the people in your organization. And next thing you know, you've got 30 minutes of time you potentially saved per day, every day of the year. And you add that together as like Franklin Covey's famous for saying, small things, you add them together, they equal big things, especially when it comes to time saving. And so if you can find some simple things like that, I don't think I want people to put their feet up and kick back and rest for those 5 minutes. But now I've given them 5 minutes to think about bigger things and time to do something else and be more creative, because I think that's where humans are going to be required to be creative and to be curious about these things. So I don't know if I've nailed it on that question or not, but I think there's some simple things and people just play with these things. And that's what I'm trying to encourage everyone to do more of. And it's kind of weird coming from a CEO to say, go out and play.
On your boss's dime.
I think with this technology, if we're going to win as companies, we have to allow our people to have some freedom to just kind of experiment and try to understand things. Not a lot of classes you can send them to right now. They've just got to really learn by doing, I think.
Yeah, that's good advice. The make.com sounds very similar to a tool that we have at Alaya Care called Connector, where you can put all the different apps together and trigger and just figure out the workflows for you. Very cool. Very cool. So, there's concerns about privacy and data security these days, especially when it comes to AI. So I want your opinion there. How does Caring Senior Service address those issues, and particularly when you're dealing with PHI?
Yeah, it's really important to make sure that you've got all of your guardrails in place to make sure you're compliant with the rules and regulations of whatever technology or whatever information you're using. And for us, it's, first of all, using vendors and partners that are compliant and can prove their compliance levels. It's not just password protection. That's kind of low, the easy to understand things, but it's making sure that you have systems that are truly locked down that people can't get into, because you do have so much information that's available to everybody. But we've partnered with a very good company to make sure that they are reviewing our security practices on a regular basis, make sure that everything we're doing is locked down as tight as possible. I'm of the opinion that you can't read any kind of tech publication or blog in which you're not seeing that major companies who have millions of dollars to invest in security are having challenges and having, it's either ransomware situations, security breaches, hacking that's happening. So it's going to impact everyone at some stage. You just hope that it's minor and that you have systems in place to minimize that damage if it's an actor trying to actually create chaos. So for us, we're just doing everything kind of all of the above approach, trying to make sure that we're staying within standard practices when it comes to technology. And that's an area where I think, people probably have the biggest fear, is that they want to do something that's going to expose their systems or cause some challenges. So we only work with tools that are kind of behind a walled garden, if you will, to make sure it stays isolated when it needs to. And when it is passing information, we're using encryption, data encryption technologies that are usually baked into whatever you're using.
So it doesn't sound like there's a need to go overboard or do anything special. If you're just using the right tools and you apply best practices when it comes to protecting information, you're going to be fine, right?
If you get an IT security expert on this call, and he'll probably say something completely different because their job is to be fearful and to lock it down. But you got to have that balance between usability, access to new technologies, but also being smart with it to make sure that you're not exposing yourself in an unnecessary way. And obviously, patient information is very important.
We won't bring the security guy on here. I won't have him argue with you. There is a balance, because when you lock it down too far, then you don't share information across the continuum of care, and that impacts your outcome. So definitely a delicate balance. Okay, so beyond administrative tasks and patient interactions, that's kind of what we've been talking about. Are there any other innovative ways you envision AI being leveraged in home care, like maybe predictive analytics or personalized care planning? Sky's the limit here.
There's just so much happening right now. It's hard to kind of fathom. I'm anxious to see. You mentioned earlier, I went on a bike ride in 2021. Part of my message during that 9,500-mile ride was to try to encourage other people to be involved in home care, and specifically to encourage younger people in technology to start thinking about how they can help aging in place be more advanced with the use of technology. Some of that's in robotics, some of that's in information systems, some of them might be in just monitoring technologies, because all of these things used together can really create a safe environment, can make an environment that's helpful for people, combat loneliness. There's just so many areas and so many things that people are working on. But the challenge remains, how do we as agencies use that without creating chaos for our teams? And that's what I typically see, is that our teams just get a little bit inundated and overloaded with too much information, because every one of these systems, they just feed you more information. And you know about their blood pressure, now you know about their weight, now you know about when they got up, when they went to bed. And AI will hopefully help us get insights, and that's the companies that we focus on, is the ones that are using the data in an analytical way and letting AI help you understand, who do I need to pay attention to, because data for just data's sake doesn't do anybody any good. What you really need to know is, like, which clients should I spend more time with? You know, if I've got a caregiver spending 8 hours with Mrs. Jones, but I've got another caregiver that's only spending 3 hours with Mrs. Smith, I needed to tell me, actually, Mrs. Smith needs 5 hours, so take away 2 hours from Mrs. Jones, potentially, and get them over there. Now, that's difficult in a private pay world, and most companies don't want to give up hours over here to get hours over there. But I think we've got to change and challenge that way of thinking that's more traditional, even when it's a private pay or out of pocket family reimbursed expense versus dollars spent with veterans or Medicaid dollars. I just think we have to be smarter with that. And AI is going to help in some of those areas. I'm really interested in wearables right now, but the patch type of ones that can go on and stay on for a long period of time, those look exciting. And I think there'll be some augmented reality that's going to be very, very interesting in the very near future. Because now with the newest, ChatGPT 4.0 is got the vision modality and the audio modality. And we're close to one to where we're all wearing a pair of glasses like the old Google glasses, but it's in a way that's much more helpful to us. Being able to talk to it, you get to that kind of almost the Iron Man's stage where you can talk with Jarvis and it can give you a lot of good information. And even though it sounds kind of crazy on home care to talk about that,
Just like sci-fi.
I think that's going to be the point to where I envision a world where we're doing an assessment with a pair of glasses that's helping me give information, record the information I'm getting from the client, helping me create a service plan that's prepared for that client's individual needs and highly tailored, truly tailored to that individual. Because there are some people that can do an intake with the client and can pick up on things that other people just wouldn't be able to pick up on. They're highly specialized. They've got a lot of good experience and knowledge, but we're serving so many people that not everyone is getting that person to do the intake. We all wish we all had that person at every location, but it's simply not the case. But technology is going to allow that to be more prevalent and allow us to do those things in a way that we just can't imagine today. I get excited about some of that stuff, and I know it's coming. I'm hopefully going to be involved in implementing some of those things.
I can feel your excitement, and it gets me excited too, because more and more care is going to continue to go into the home. And as more people are cared for in the home, we need a way to manage that care. And if there's a tool layered on top of everything else we're using that can say, hey, Mrs. Jones today is the one. Out of all the masses, the terabytes of data that's flying at us, it doesn't mean anything unless you can condense it and it says, call this person or do this thing. It's going to be amazing to watch over the next decade or so, for sure.
Predictive analytics is where things will be really interesting. And that's with the machine learning combined with LLM. I think that's going to be a really interesting area.
I just have one more question for you. Let's wrap this up with some advice to the listeners. If there are people out there that just want to get started with exploring the power of AI, where do they start? I know you said play, but talk to us about some things that they can go play with.
Obviously, people have access to ChatGPT today. It's public. Anyone can use it. I think that investing $20 a month into a paid account makes a lot of sense, because you get a little more security and control when you have that paid account. And I have no stock in OpenAI. Probably should have, as crazy as I am about it. But if it's not OpenAI, it could be Anthropic or Claude, and it's very, very useful. But I think that once you get on the paid version, you have access to a few more things. And it's just the way I've had my career. So I can't write for everybody, but I've wanted to understand things at least at a level to where I can have a decent discussion with others. I'm always pleased when other people on my team know more than I do. I'm jealous of them when that happens, but I'm pleased. I like to understand that I can have the conversation and know what they're talking about at some level by learning some of these things. The cool thing is, if you're talking to a guy that's talking geek speak to you, then you can use ChatGPT to help translate that for you. Like, what's he talking about? And just go into it for so many things. Like, I was on a panel at another conference a few weeks ago, and I told people that I've recently started just playing with the voice interaction with ChatGPT to learn Spanish on my way to work. And it's crazy what this one technology can do. I can say, hey, I'd like to learn Spanish. Can you practice some phrases with me? You say the phrase you want me to say it to me in Spanish, and then I'll repeat it to you, and you tell me how I did. That's all that I prompted it with, and it started doing that.
Wow.
I said, I want to get better on my client inquiry calls. Can you act like you're a senior client's daughter and you're calling me, and then let's have an interaction, and then when I say stop, you tell me how I did and how I could improve. And it was able to do that. Now that's the kind of stuff that I think people need to play with to know what it's capable of. The days of us using it as a chat bot to type in a message and give us some feedback, I think, are over, and we need to move beyond that. And we need to really push the boundaries of what we think it can do. I took a picture with the app that they have on the iPhone of a room, and I said, can you tell me, because I wonder if we could know how the size of a room is. So can you tell me how big this room is? And it was able to estimate the size of the room that I was in the square footage, because it picked up on, well, I see a table and I see people sitting at the table. Because there's 3 people at the table, I think it's a 6-foot table. Using that as my guideline, I think this room is 15 by 20. Pretty close to correct. I didn't actually get my tape measure out to measure it. But I mean, that's something that no one told me. I could try that with ChatGPT. I tried it. I got 1 million uses. I could walk through all the little things I've done with it just to see if it works. And it's always surprised me. It says,
you've been a good play.
I no longer keep business cards because I take a picture and I have it transcribed.
So funny. Completely. So the theme here is just be curious, people. Be open and curious and see what's possible.
I think if nothing else, be curious, because that's going to lead you to things you didn't expect, and it's going to open your mind quite a bit.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, this has been a very fun conversation for me, and I'm sure the listeners are out there enjoying it as well, and they're going to be playing with ChatGPT when they finish listening to this podcast, if they're not already playing with it now. Thank you so much for coming on to the show today. So good to talk.
Appreciate you having me here. Thank you.
Home Health 360 is presented by AlayaCare and hosted by Aaron Villier. First, we want to thank our amazing guests and listeners. Second, new episodes air every month, so be sure to subscribe today so you don't miss an episode. And last but not least, if you liked this episode and want to learn more about all things home-based care, you can explore all of our episodes at alayacare.com/homehealth360 or visit us on your favorite podcast platform.